Hey guys, welcome to the MC Anime Podcast. We cover anime, geek culture, Japanese aesthetics, and Asian studies. We are a multi-fandom podcast, and you can expect to hear topics in your favorite hobby or fandom activity potentially. You can find MC Anime on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Also, please check out mcanimepodcast.com, our website. Furthermore, stay tuned in for another episode.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of MC Anime. MC here. I got fellow co-host with us today, Leah. How you doing?
I'm caffeinated, and that's a start. That's all I have to give at this point in the month. It's been crazy hot, and I've been crazy tired. But I'm caffeinated, so I'm here. We can do this.
True.
Maybe.
And speak about caffeinated. I guess I'm, what's it called? Hydrated with tea. So
I knew about this, but I also didn't know how you were going to phrase that. But yeah, you're hydrated with tea.
You're like caffeinated. I'm hydrated. There you go. But as we take the caffeinated and hydrated duo, let's jump into the introduction of this episode and see what we're all about.
So, for this week, we decided to kind of talk on a area of anime that we've touched on kind of lightly and have talked about animes in this genre. But this week is about suspense and thriller animes. Yeah. The things that make it great, what can make for a bad thriller suspense anime, and then some of our favorites and what we would like to see in the future.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And with suspense anime, basically, I don't want to say shock factor, but it's more like sequence of events that kind of just keep you on the edge of your seat. And overall, kind of plays in the psychological a little bit, but also a storytelling technique that keeps the interesting. Because suspense adds a lot to the storyline. So, let's say you're doing a soap opera and you want to add suspense. Well, you put some drama with the family feud, and then the family has an affair. Bam. There you go. You had the revelation of everything going on, and that just adds more to the story.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty on point when it comes to suspense and thriller animes. They do keep you on the edge of their seat, but I would say there's this weird tension that you feel as a viewer where you want to see what happens next. You kind of don't want to see what happens next. But you're also testing your own intelligence and seeing for yourself like how maybe you would survive or outwit the other team or things like that. So they really do engage you in a different way than maybe what fantasy, strictly fantasy animes may do, like isekais or just regular shonen animes. There is this other added level where they're like, let's add some watcher intelligence into it, and that's very cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And recently I've been getting way into thriller and suspense animes. I came back around. I watched them a lot when I was younger and fell off for a little bit, but we're back now. I don't know what happened. I just randomly got into it.
Yeah.
So that's how this subject came up.
You also have I just got back into it. I've been watching it for a while. The tension of the shows I watch in this genre is just so too much for me to handle.
It gets really intense, and then you're sitting there and you're watching it. And I go through phases. I think everyone does, where sometimes you're like, I need to be on the edge of my seat, and I need things to be constantly intense. And then other times you're like, I just want to forget about all my other responsibilities and watch something easygoing. And so there's so many animes out there that could help in both of those fields. But I think we should start with defining, I guess, what makes a good thriller suspense anime.
True. There's different categories for that. So.
Yeah, so I will say that maybe the only difference that I can think of in regards to suspense or thriller, when I think of thriller, I usually think that there's like something ominous on the edge line. True. And so it adds a bit more of excitement in that sense. And then like kind of with suspense, those ones, yes, there's something on the other side depending on what move the character makes, but it doesn't always necessarily mean that it's going to be like death or like
it's not like
really
it's not always what's it called? Oh gosh, never mind. I had something to say. I don't even know the name.
I was like, "Are you gonna try and explain it?" And I guess we can try that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for suspense and thriller animes, the things that really build them out is one, the entire premise of the show. What is the like? I guess the game. What is the end result? What is the end goal? And once you kind of realize what the situation is, it'll also determine how interested you're going to be in it.
Yeah, not every. I got it. Mm-hmm. Not every thriller anime is going to be like Promised Neverland, so just keep that in mind.
Yes, it's very, 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 very true. And there's different types. Like you have ones where Promised Neverland, where it's more of a long drawn out game of who is going to outwit the other.
Yep.
You have ones like Death Note, which are more of a cat and mouse type. I mean, maybe you can kind of toss in things like I don't know, maybe like Sword Art Online for some people, where they're like, how are you going to get out of this actual situation? But there's so many varieties in regards to suspense and thriller, but the actual premise of what's happening and how the characters can get over that situation is like the number one thing that you need. If you don't have a good show set up or situation, it loses people's interest. So the same way that people fell in love with Squid Game because there was like different layers to the game itself and also different layers to the plot and the characters and how they would overcome them. It's kind of the same thing that you see in suspense animes where you're just like, okay, so there's level 1, but then you have all of these other things you have to kind of combat in order to actually get done and like achieve and win.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then I would probably say the very next thing is likable characters. Like characters that you're actually either completely rooting for or do not want to see like have a good day ever. You have to have like some emotional attachment to the characters. Otherwise, if they're too flat and you can't resonate with them, you don't really care what happens to them. So you kind of lose interest in the plot itself, or you're just kind of idly watching.
Yeah. So, and also another thing to know about suspense, you need to build up the tension. You always have to have a problem that you need to solve. Now, the expect the unexpected kind of really applies here because you don't know what's going to happen, who's going to pop out. Just think of like that zombie game kind of thing. The writer might throw in a twist you didn't expect, and the zombie just randomly comes out, and you have to defend yourself.
Yeah.
So that's the unique thing with the suspense genre. They can do, I guess, what we call jump scare moments in the writing process to just completely bamboozle you.
I love those moments, though. I love it when you're not expecting something to happen, or maybe you're not expecting, like, a bad thing to happen to a certain character, especially the ones that do not mind taking out main characters. Like, at all. You're just
Oh
you're just
gosh.
watching the show and you're just like, la 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 la. Your favorite person could just get completely taken out and you're just like, huh. Gotta live with that now. I guess I gotta accept this.
Oh yes.
I think that's kind of what made like Death Note and Code Geass so attractive to people.
Oh, true.
Was they were, and it's also something that's very uncommon, I think, in other genres of anime. Yeah. Typically, when you introduce the main core group of characters outside the protagonist, or just constant reoccurring characters, it's very unlikely that you're going to remove them from the script or like take them out in some way. But in suspense and thriller animes, you never know. And sometimes the big shock factor is that while you're so busy trying to do the mind game part, they just do something that completely flips everything on its head, and now you're just stuck there. You're just like with the characters in the show, just like, well, what now?
True.
Okay. Yeah.
And also another thing with Death Note that creates the suspense is the psychological mind games that they play, the cat and mouse back and forth, trying to figure out who's going to be this, like L and Light. They're basically equal equivalent characters of mindset, but they're in the two flips of the coin.
Uh-huh.
So that dynamic between them, you know, the apple-loving Shinigami connection to Kira and L being a detective kind of plays in a role that kind of puts you on a good binge-watching chase.
Yeah, and again, and they're also very well fleshed out characters.
Yeah.
Rather than it being just like, you know, Light is a guy who just wants world power and world domination, and L is just a detective who's out there to stop him. Instead of it being like black and white like that, they offer so many similarities that you end up kind of rooting for them both. I don't know. I was weirdly rooting for both of them during like the first part of the show and after their introduction, where I was like, ooh, I don't want him to get caught, but also he's a bad person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an amazing show for that. And I think also like even with Code Geass, when you're watching it,
yeah, Code Geass.
You're rooting for like Lelouch to get what he needs to do, but you're also rooting for people to stop him because, you know, he's kind of being evil.
Yeah, true.
But yeah. And so those are kind of like the great ways that suspense and anime, suspense and thriller animes kind of pull you in.
Yeah.
Having great characters, great premise, and actually keeping you on the edge of your seat and making you trying to calculate what's going to go right or go wrong.
Yeah.
But there are also bad qualities, I think, that come into play. There are some shows where the jump scares or the big twists, they kind of they have too many. Like I've seen some shows where they just keep trying to make something happen every episode, which you don't always need to do. And that can kind of, I don't know, like sully the plot and kind of drag it down when you're like, okay, oh, all right, so this is happening now.
Yeah. And you know, stuff like that is the horror element that Japan is kind of known for, because Japanese horror is like really different, really, what to say, more classic of like giving you that suspenseful feeling with probably some violent imagery. And just the creepiness of it, too.
Yeah. I don't know what it is with Japan, but they have this affinity for, like, body horror.
Mm-hmm.
I think they realize, like, the easiest way to freak people out is, like, show terrible or weird things happening to the human body. Yeah. But also, sometimes it's just, like, why?
True.
Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the premises can get kind of strange.
Yeah.
Like there are suspense shows where basically characters are trying to survive and make it through to the end of it, and then some people get killed or dragged off or whatever. I know one of the worst ones I saw. I don't know if it's actually bad because I did that thing where I watched it with friends and we had drinks and we knew it was going to be bad, but it's Island of the Giant Insect.
Oh, yes.
And
yes.
It's like, why? But I watched it while drinking with friends, so to me, it has a good standing as so bad it's good.
Yeah.
But it's still bad, yeah.
I mean, like, they tear limb from limb, and then you also have the classic fan service with the insects.
Yeah.
Just like some of the High School of the Dead. It's like, High School of the Dead doesn't need all of this. It's zombies. It's not the zombies that's storytelling. It's like, why do we need this extra element that doesn't fit in the narrative?
The only thing, though, I can say about High School of the Dead, which is another suspense one where you're trying to see, like, at any point characters could die, even with the gratuitous fan service, which even the fans were like, please, zombies and stuff, we're good.
Well, yeah.
Even with that one, I think the ridiculousness of some of the scenes because of the fan service plus the action, it's what makes it iconic.
Yeah.
It makes it like a wild camp experience. But like Island of the Giant Insects, you're just sitting there and you're just like, this is stupid. Like, for one, why are you making bugs? Like, the horror element. And for those who can't figure it out from the name, Island of the Giant Insects is basically, I forgot what happens in the beginning. I think it's like a plane crash or something, but these students end up stranded on an island. And they realize that it's filled with giant, huge bugs that just starts.
That's just the man-eating kind.
Yeah, they're also man-eating bugs, which is strange. Like, bugs that probably wouldn't eat humans are just like, no, today is the day. Violence all day. And so when you watch it, it's very dumb.
True.
Very, very dumb.
And when I think of, like, when I first saw the title of Island of the Giant Insects, I thought of, like, the giant cephalopods from the prehistoric era just coming at you. Be, like, 9 feet long and all, like, huge. Just the huge ones coming after you.
Ridiculous.
So if you want to see giant cephalopods, which is my imagery, the giant of the insects, there you go. Or the giant spider, or who knows what else, creepy crawlies coming at you.
Yeah, like a spider is scary enough on like normal human levels. Or like if you live in Australia. But they were like, no, let's make a total, complete premise about just giant monsters.
Oh gosh.
We out here.
Oh gosh.
And so yes, that could absolutely ruin a show, and it kind of did. I don't know anyone who says it's like one of their favorites.
Yeah.
But it is one of my like, if you're going to hang out with friends and you want to rip on a show, this is the place to go.
True, and if you're drinking with them, then the show can just be like a comic pastime.
I don't even think you have to be drinking for this one. Like, sometimes I think if you just like completely just decide to watch it, if you watch it alone, you're probably more than likely going to click off or have it on the background. But if you watch it with friends, there's going to be points where, like, if you're not looking at the screen or you're complaining about something else, immediately another dumb character move happens. Where you're like, why would you think that was a smart idea?
Oh, gosh.
It's an experience.
So,
if it's anything, it is an
if I'm getting this straight, the Island of the Giant Insects is like, what? Equivalent to Sharknado for the laughs?
Yeah. I can say that.
Gosh.
I think that's a perfect comparison.
Oh my gosh.
Because that's the issue also that happens with these suspense shows, is that they always try to top it,
Yeah.
And then in an anime, I think the worst part is that because you kind of want to know what the character motivation is and you need all this like exposition, they spend so long like explaining to you what their plan is or what they think is happening or whatever.
Yeah.
But then all of these dumb scenes happen right afterwards.
True.
Like,
they don't make any sense, and the continuity of the story is like up and down because of the basic, let me say, repeated storyline that we don't always want to see. So, but, as you have repeated storyline, sometimes you have suspense anime that actually, instead of being repeated, kind of gets more involved as the story goes on. So this is what we call deep dive and like the impressions like over time. And one such example is Steins Gate. The deeper you get into the show, the more suspenseful it gets. But on the surface, it actually gets into what I call the introduction, like a slow pace introduction, which if you're going to have a slow pace, you better have a good payoff for the stories to finish the story.
mm-hmm.
And for anyone,
I think the pacing for Steins Gate is one of its best features.
Yeah, it's really weird because they do a lot of the introduction. They do like the story building pretty good. I mean, it takes a little bit of time to do it, but once you get to the revelation that this other person, this other anonym, is actually supposedly time traveling and being on these forums, that's what the suspense kind of plays in. The microwave reaction of the potato just melting, trying to do an example of time travel. It's like, this is actually really good content.
And I don't know. I like I like majority of the characters in Steins Gate as well.
Yeah.
I feel like if you don't like the characters and you don't care what's happening to them, even the coolest concepts can kind of fall through. But I don't know, everyone's really well written and not just one dimensional.
True. And, time travel is really interesting because it dives into the science fiction realm, which a lot of suspense can dive into the science fiction and do really well. Because science fiction has a lot to tell, even if people don't know exactly what's going on.
Well, I think with time travel, it's really easy to kind of get pulled out of it because you start asking questions like, well, what if you did that, then this thing happen, and then you like nothing messes up a time travel story more than like actual logic. But Steins Gate kind of like stops that. It's very well written where you're not spending half of the episode like, but wouldn't that contradict with this other thing that you literally said you weren't supposed to do or whatever?
It's not a Rick and Morty situation where they keep contradicting themselves episode to episode.
They're just different writers every single week.
Exactly. We have a feature writer for this story.
Not a Marvel movie.
Oh gosh. But yeah, I think Steins Gate stands as the classic anime of its time, and it still has the OG fan base and newer fan base going to it. So
I was gonna say, I think people still watch it.
Oh yeah,
like, new people still get pulled in because it's a great show.
Mm-hmm.
I have never heard anyone say anything bad about Steins Gate.
Yeah,
ever. So yeah, a great recommendation if you want to watch like something that's gonna have you like on the edge of your seat and waiting for questions to be answered. I would say right now my current favorite for like a suspense thriller anime is like Tomodachi Game, which is it's kind of the same in that premise of like Squid Game, where people with a bunch of debt who have to play these games in order to pay it off, but luckily, like they don't violently like try and take them out in every single game, so you do get to kind of watch it. And it has, of course, other layers to the story as you get to know the characters more and more. And so it's like coming out episode by episode right now. And I really enjoy that one because I was like, I love the game element in like thriller animes where they have to beat a game and have to be smarter than like whatever administrator is doing it or whatever like overlord or government entity is.
True.
But yeah, so you get to see like and you also think about like what would I do in that situation?
Yeah.
Typically, your ideas aren't as the characters. It's fine.
Now, the slow pacing might work in Steins Gate, but here's another worse example of slow pacing, but also with a lot more worse qualities. The Dark Myth. Kind of interesting. It touches on the mythological side of Japanese horror, but it's the flagbearer of what a bad anime is. You know, poor audio, animation quality. It's really weird seeing Dark Myth, to be honest, because it's not really, it doesn't have much appeal to it, you know?
Well, it's very generic.
Yeah.
I think as well. Like, it's just very generic looking. So you're like, what's the... And that's important. You have to have another oomph factor. But I think if you just kind of throw in all the elements that you think people will like, you can still miss the mark.
You know, because you have fierce gods of legend shock the earth with the power. Prehistoric rivals from the primitive times of Japan. Father protect the secrets in present day. The god of darkness, Shuhao, is now in the shadows of the underworld waiting for rebirth. Coming hasn't unnoticed. Agents from the clan, for the first inhabitants of Japan, warning signs of the spreading darkness. Like, it has a good storyline. It just does really bad visuals. The audio is not so good. It's so snail pace. Like, if the visuals are bad and the audio is bad, if your pacing's so bad, you might as well just be off the list.
Yeah, I feel as though being bad in all of those categories and somehow equally bad. It's not like it's, the pacing's a little off, but it's a beautiful visual show.
Yeah.
No, it's all terrible.
Like,
it's all terrible.
The only thing of the show that actually does what it's supposed to do with, like, I guess, suspense is dive into the supernatural. But if the supernatural is the only appealing of the show and everything else is bad, it's like a D rating anime. Like, come on.
Yeah, and I don't... I don't know. I feel like... Because it deals with mythology, like Japanese mythology, so you're wondering, like, how can you guys screw this up? Because anime is the best platform for, like, over-the-top, unbelievable aspects of reality. And none of it looks interesting. Like, none of the, like, shots from it, nothing makes me want to go, like, oh, I wonder what that's about. Also, the creatures look stupid. I'm sorry. They just look like a bunch of golems from Lord of the Rings. Like, ugh. I don't want to hang out with a bunch of golems following me. I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, like being mystery, psychological, drama, and horror, and being suspense doesn't really. It's just too much going on. Drama and mystery, like, those have to be really specific to really work together. Because drama in this case is suspense. Mystery can deal with suspense, but the problem is you can't get over the glaring effect of the sound and the quality of the animation, and then the snail pace of it just doesn't work. And it's very intense for objectionable content too. So it's just the definition of Japanese horror taken to a new level. It's intense quality in the subject matter, and the visuals don't even help in the intense situation. So what's the point?
I think it's one of those things where when you don't know what's wrong, you just keep trying everything and hope that something works. Yeah. And this is the result. And Dark Myth is the result. But granted, there are worse like suspense animes out there.
Yeah.
Like Mars of Destruction.
Oh boy, yes. Why? Mars of Destruction.
Why?
Oh boy. Oh gosh. I remember Mars of Destruction. Yeah.
It's kind of a what not to do. It's like what not to do. So basically, it has the very kind of stereotypical sci-fi fighting kind of premise where ships coming back from space, things go wrong, it blows up. Like it was a manned mission to Mars, and they were returning to Earth, and then it blows up upon returning, and then all of a sudden these kind of like alien type creatures called the Ancients begin attacking the Earth.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the only line of defense is high schoolers. Which is like Neon Genesis does this.
Yeah.
But much better.
Yeah.
Like way, way better.
Oh yeah. It's nothing more than an extended, uncensored version of the video game's cutscenes. So that doesn't help. It's very generic plot about an alien invasion. Teenage girls are trained to be the frontline soldiers. When I haven't seen that before. Oh yeah, mediocre animation has not aged very well. At all.
Oh, hate that.
Yeah. I mean, you have to take into consideration the animation aging, but even if animation doesn't age well, this is just one of the things that just adds to the show that's just being bad. Also, Mars Destruction. Very cheesy, unoriginal, and laughable. Like, they could call it anything else, and it probably be a little bit better on the title.
Mars of Destruction is a terrible title.
Exactly.
Because also you're thinking it's taking place on Mars, and they're
like, it's not.
No. You're like, what?
So,
why is that Mars of Destruction? I thought we were going to Mars. They were like, no, we just got back.
Yeah.
We're not.
So why are we giving a misleading title that basically doesn't take place on Mars? So the continuity is all messed up. Laughable deaths. Beginning when we have a female soldier gets her head blown off by a laser beam. Yeah.
That is hilarious. I'm so sorry. That season in Mars of Destruction, like, literally have me in tears. Because I'm just like, this had to be someone's very first project. And the fact that they had a video game to go off of, and they still were like we're not adding anything to the budget. It's so bad. Also, the drawing style. I don't know if you were one of those folks that, like, when you first get into anime, I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, I want to try drawing this." And there were these, like, back in the day, all these books that were like, how to draw anime or anime drawing 101. And they have those very generic faces, like the very huge eyes.
Yeah.
The hairstyle, all of it. It's just so It's so dated. It's so bad.
Oh no! Here's the hilarious part of this one. Terrible twist ending. Turns out the aliens are actually the original inhabitants of Earth, and the humans are the invaders who drove them to near extinction.
Dun dun.
What the fuck?
Giant twist.
So the aliens
you know
rule Earth, and the humans are the invaders. That would be a good story. However, the entire show is just 3 fight scenes. Rushed, horrible, and subpar. That's it. That's the only thing they have. So I don't even think the terrible twist ending saves the show at all.
I can't remember what movie it is, but there's an actual movie that has that same premise where it's basically like one day these aliens show up and start attacking Earth. And then at the very end, you realize the huge twist is like, no, all the people who were living there were the aliens that took over the Earth and the humans left. And it's like, oh my God. But that one was better to watch. It wasn't the greatest movie, but it was still better to watch than Mars of Destruction.
Yeah.
Still a stupid name. Stupid name.
4-minute deprecation scene. The cross scene, which is then followed by deceased Shoulder's comrades taken her to the hospital, and then she's confirmed dead. Like, like, come on. Like, what the heck?
No. They said we're not cutting anything from the script. we have to fill this runtime. It's so bad. It kind of does make me want to play the game and wonder if, like, maybe if they had just left it a game, it wouldn't be this terrible. I think the
game would probably be better because the game can do this type of stuff. Anime is a really weird story medium to do this type of stuff with. A game is perfect because even a worse game, people can play and still enjoy it. Because there's an actual story and you can play as the characters.
Yeah, and at least you can do something. Like, at least you can interact and maybe make a different choice. But when you're watching it and you're just like, I hate all of this.
Yeah.
It won't stop. there will be no peace.
This game is not Final Fantasy, where the Final Fantasy can be an entire series by itself, and you're just watching a story mode animation title.
Yeah, I think it kind of falls into that perfect middle ground of it's bad anime, but it's bad anime because it was a video game adaptation, and video game movies already have a really tough time not being horrible. Like the Mortal Kombat movie was interesting, but I was like, I kind of just want to play the game instead. Yeah, so Mars of Destruction never should have been made.
Yeah.
There's no suspense in it.
If you want to know who wins, the aliens lose, trying to take back the home planet. The last alien gets killed in a hail of gunfire. So the humans win again. Like, they invaded them first, and then the aliens try to come back, and the aliens can't win.
Hold back. It's just like, what is the purpose of any of this? And the fact that it's so bad. Because typically on this show, we try not to do spoilers, but this is a show that, like, it doesn't matter if you know
it doesn't matter.
Premise,
I want to spoil the heck out of it just to tell you how bad it is.
You are going to hate it regardless. Like, it's one of those shows where it's like, you could tell me every twist and turn. And I'll still watch it, and I'll still be just as angry.
Oh.
I might even be more so angry, because I know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
TerribleTVShows.org. Oh, gosh.
Absolute madness.
Oh, oh, gosh. I need to go back to a positive. Oh,
think happy thoughts. Think
happy go back shows. I never really trashed much, but it kind of, let's talk about Future Diary. That would definitely put me on better ease.
Future Diary is a good one. Also kind of iconic, I think, in regards of the it not only being suspenseful but also just being crazy. Yeah.
So, I mean, I like the space. I think Future Diary is interesting because you have the harmonics, grossing plot, the characters are great. It's also just like what you expect the genre to be honest. I don't have no complaints about Future Diary. How about you?
I enjoy Future Diary, but I do hate the main character.
I mean, yes, it is one of those annoying characters that we have mentioned before. Annoying characters.
I hate him.
I mean,
I hate him so much.
I know we hate him, but like, he does so much to drive the story along. I think him being annoying and to have this supporting character with I guess his significant other or sidekick or whatever.
His girlfriend?
Yeah, his girlfriend actually kind of balances him out. So like, he's a terrible MC, but she's like basically people consider her the MC more than him. So they watch it for her, not for him.
Yeah. And like essentially the premise of the show is just that it's another kind of like survival game-esque like premise. But Amano, who is the main character, he's this kind of like bland shy guy. He doesn't. Yeah. I hate him. I'm not going to talk badly about him, but I do hate him. But regardless,
he does have a nice girlfriend that can balance it out. I consider the main character, so that's a plus.
It is, yes. That it does have the unfortunate side character is more interesting than the main character curse that happens in anime. But again, I think also if we see things kind of through the lenses of someone who isn't as exciting, it helps balance out the story.
Yeah, so, it actually does.
Yeah.
The dynamic and kind of foretells like, oh, what kind of conflict are you going to be by Shy today? Do I have to come back to your rescue? It's the reverse Dance Under Stress. I like reverse Dance Under Stress story archetypes because it's the woman saving the day, not the woman being saved.
I love that. I do have to say, I feel like Future Diary also kind of revitalized the weird kind of like character thing that they do with female characters now, where like they look very sweet or very cute and all of that, but then they have this completely crazy side on the other side. Like it does that like half hand where you see like internally they're actually like the worst. They are horrifically demented. Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah, she's like I think she's a Dondale archetype. I think she's like a Dondale or Yasudea. One of the two. But yeah, both fit that crazy aesthetic.
Yeah, I think it's Yandere that she's Yandere. Like the poster child for. Who is the other almost like basically character in the show.
Yeah.
And because of this, because there's again so many different layers on top of what the main thing is, which is basically a death game where you have to survive, and there's other people also a part of the game who's playing with you. Having these things where it's like girl with split personality, main character who's like kind of useless, but for some reason keeps living. Like having all of these things, these romances. I've got to let it go. One day I will. But
I mean, it really works. I don't know. It's like she supports him. She's the main protagonist, by far. He just skates by. He's the one that follows everyone's coattails and lives to the end, which is fine. People do that in competitions all the time. They just float around and no one gets rid of them because they're somewhat useful as a floater, I guess. So he's a floater type. He just floats around and he's he adds a suspense to the story and he has to be rescued. So he plays the part well for suspense wise.
He does. I guess just for me, it's just you keep kind of waiting for him to turn into somebody else. Like you're like, okay, he's gonna be awesome soon, and then you're just like, still just D'Amato, still just him.
Yeah, but that's also a endearing quality about him too. He never changes, so he actually has a decent fan base that actually like him because of the fact that he always just stays the same.
He said, "Growth, no, thank you." And I have to say that's not usually what you see in these kind of shows. Typically, with the suspense shows, like the characters develop and to continue surviving. But Amato said, "No thanks."
Hey, sometimes a very static character is what you need to sell the entire story. If they never change and you have the girlfriend being the dynamic, that's great. She always, I don't know, split personality. I think she always just does something different. And their dynamic together is kind of what the story's about. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very cool duality that is set up. Yeah. So you actually get to enjoy all of it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, fortunately, and unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's definitely a staple.
Lee is like, I still hate him. I don't care what you say.
He was on our list of despisable characters that we've done in the past.
True.
He definitely is on the list of characters that people are like, and that's the thing. You don't hate him because he's necessarily a bad guy.
Yeah.
You just don't like him because you're like, do something, please. And he's like, no, I didn't ask for this. I'm not going to change.
True.
It is what it is.
And speaking of a show with a unique premise, Death Parade. Kind of interesting.
Oh, I kind of forgot about Death Parade.
It's one, okay.
Not in a bad way.
Oh, yeah. So the unique premise of Death Parade is basically what will you do after death? You usually have the wrongdoer, and you have the person who's innocent. So they rewind on different, like a ball-like scene in the background to test out if you are going up, if you're going down. That's what they determine. Going up is the heaven, going down is the underworld. And they incentivize this to the elevator scenes, coming in, coming out. The first two episodes, you just see, them playing these different games, trying to determine different outcomes. But then, the third or fourth episode, it completely changes. You see the council deliberating. Oh yeah, you need to watch out for this person because they're actually at fault, not this character. It kind of brings them to an interesting light. So it really plays into, I guess, suspense of who is wrong, who is right kind of scenario, which doesn't happen very often.
No, I do like it because it's not like, oh, we're trying to see them prevent their death. This is the middle part where they are determined what's going to happen to their eternal soul and being put in different scenarios and different games to elicit reactions. And that's how he's basically the main bartender of the show. And what was his name? Decimal, something like that?
Yeah.
He is kind of like judge and jury.
Yeah.
So I liked it. It kind of gave me the same it gave me a more like, I don't know, psychological deep dive compared to like Danganronpa. Because in that show, yes, everyone's like trapped and have to play this game, but the purpose is that if you have to, you only one person gets to escape and one person gets to come out on top.
Yeah, it's a murder
that
mystery.
Basically means you have to kill people as well.
Danganronpa's a murder mystery, so it really adds suspense in that scenario, because murder mystery, you don't know what's going to happen. You're going to figure out who's the killer amongst the people there, and then who is the killer shocks you at the end. So,
and I mean, you also are trying to figure it out before they announce it, like before they get to the part where they say, like, they line out how this murder happened and how this person is the cause of it. You try and figure it out yourself beforehand, and that makes it fun.
Oh yeah, just like any detective Sherlock Holmes genre story, that kind of element of solving it, trying to figure out before they do something else, kind of is like the preventing of the crime. While Death Parade, they're not really preventing the crime; they're just going over what happened before you died, so, and how you lived your life. So, I don't know. I have good things to say about Death Parade. It kind of tenderly gives like the suspense that you don't really expect, and then when the story unfolds about who they are and what is going on, it kind of like aesthetically plays with the darkness and dreariness, but it's also episodic, so you can watch each episode by itself. So I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I think it's only one season, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's one season, so it's pretty self-contained for those of you out there who don't want to have a too long of a show. Because that's the thing with like Code Geass. Like, I know some people haven't watched Code Geass because they're like, yeah, it's kind of long compared to what like I guess if you don't want to be on the edge of your seat for like a couple of weeks. If you want something simple, you can knock this show out in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've pretty much hit all the bases.
True.
Like, again, I absolutely love I love this genre.
Yeah.
And it's also something that you can like take a break from and come back to, and it's still just as good. And new shows are coming out. Like, more shows are starting to go down that kind of like suspense thriller line where everyone's trying to be the next Death Note. So very exciting. And
before we go, I had to bring up Pupa. Oh my gosh, Pupa is such a weird suspense anime. It's not in a good way.
It's not good.
No.
It's not good.
Like, I don't understand. Like, the premise is you have abusive parents, dependent on each other, siblings, Yutus, and Yumi. They're stray, beautiful butterflies. Crimson Wing heralds trumpet to the beginning of a cannibalistic nightmare. Mysterious virus known as Pupa is about to hatch. After succumbing to the full effects of Pupa, Yumi undergoes a grotesque metamorphosis into a mysterious creature with desire for flesh. So Otsumi is partly affected, gaining remarkable regenerative powers instead. So the sister turns into a monster, and the brother has to save the day.
Yeah. So essentially, the little sister gets this like virus that turns her into a cannibal, and terrifying creature, and her brother tries to protect her. But the production value of the show is so bad that that's one thing that turns you off. Just how it looks is unpleasant to me. It looks dirty, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense. Like, it looks, like, when you look at it, you're like, I wish I would have cleaned this up. And then also, didn't have good marketing. The storyline sounds interesting when you first hear it. Like, oh, the brother and sister dynamic. Who doesn't love that? Like, all my Demon Slayer fans, we're like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
We've seen this before. We're into it. And then you start watching it, and you're like, ew. Like, starting off, like, with the baby scene, like, the half, like, scarred baby face. And you're just like, ew, I hate this. And I don't think I like any of the scenes, any of the voice acting.
Yeah.
Nothing.
If the animation was actually a lot better, I'll give it like maybe a solid C. But like, if you want something like really like specific to grotesque and horrific, like Pupa, you kind of have to have like good animation to sell the visuals, because that is what you are basing it on. Like, even if stories mediocre and stuff like that, if the animation is selling the grotesque elements, it will have a fan base because of that. Just of that alone. Because people like that kind of stuff. They like that type of storyline. Like, Hellsing does it really well with, and Berserk does it really well too.
Parasite.
Yeah, Parasite
does
as well.
it really well. So Parasite is a great example of how to do it well.
Yeah.
And Pupa is also a terrible name.
Yeah.
Again, it's like, it's somehow prefaced by the very fact that they couldn't even get the name to sound appealing. Like, the name is as unappealing as the show is.
I'm like, if the virus is named Pupa, and you name your show after the virus, like, you're gonna have to have a really weird virus to be a good show title. Like, The Invasion of Z, the Z virus, bam. That's a good title. But like, what would you give this alternative title?
I don't know, because the thing is, like, the reason why I really do enjoy the name for, like, Parasite, the name of it, is because they didn't name it off of what the actual creature is.
Yeah.
But everyone knows exactly what a parasite is. Everyone knows, like, what an infection is. So if they, like, had named it something that elicits a certain reaction from people where you know it's a bad thing, that would be different. But instead, you're just like, what is Pupa?
Yeah.
And it also just sounds like something that, like, a toddler is struggling to say. It doesn't sound like something ominous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you give it like I don't know. Drawing a blank for a name. Grotesque. Oh, metamorphic or something. Or I don't know. Yeah, metamorphic. No. Pupa metamorphic would probably be better.
That one I could get down with.
Yeah,
that one's fine.
Like, that would actually tell you, is like, oh, it's metamorphic in the pupa, and like, oh, what's pupa metamorphic? Like, that actually sounds better than just pupa.
Yeah, because it's like, it doesn't lend to you thinking that there's anything more to it. You're just like, okay, Pupa. That's it.
Oh, God.
All right. And we're done.
So we kind of went over the elements of a good suspense, went over the elements of bad suspense. So it kind of...
Given plenty of examples.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And one thing to take from this, if you really like suspense, you really like tension, you really like the unexpected to happen, to be on your tip of your feet, look at some suspense anime. Because there's a lot out there. A lot of times it's cross genres, so it dives into suspense, but it's also like psychological, horror, uh, drama. So find the suspense story that you like. Yeah. Because each one is different. There's different ways to drive it. Even in drama can be considered suspense in some aspects, so not soap opera drama, but you get some interesting storylines regardless of what you like and how you view the genre. Because I think suspense is like not a main genre, but it's not a subgenre either. It is the genre by itself. So
I think it is. Like on Crunchyroll, they have one. I think it's thrillers, though. I don't know if it's suspense. I think it's called thrillers. It's the category. But then when you go in there, it's like again, it's a wide range of like multiple different animes. Right? Yeah. Literally, like I think on Crunchyroll, like Sword Art Online is underneath the thrillers, and you're just like,
Thrillers like action kind of thing. I mean, yeah, thriller is a really broad concept as well. Because thriller just gets to so many different categories as well.
Yeah.
So
it runs through quite a few of them. So again, if you like we've told you which ones are terrible, you can still watch them. I would say even take a gander if you want to see why they're so bad, and don't just take our word for it. But there are a lot of really good ones out there that can fall into bigger genres that you might be really interested in.
I mean, I watched Pupa. I'm not gonna lie, it was decent. It's not the greatest, but
it was a thing.
It was a thing. Yeah. It was interesting enough to watch. It seemed like, okay, this is okay, I guess. Just passing the time. Like, it didn't have much there, except what it was. So, anyway, guys, this concludes our best and worst cases of suspense anime and what makes a good suspenseful genre, what it is, and how it tells a story. You got anything else to add, Liam?
No. I mean, if you decide to hop into these shows, take my advice. If it's gonna be one that you think will be either really interesting or really ridiculous, definitely have friends over, because it can make the experience that much better. It's fun to watch anime with other people.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like I really do hope that for those of you out there who didn't know about some of these shows, you're gonna check them out. And then for those of you who haven't really gotten into thriller suspense animes, you take another dive in, because everyone knows Death Note, but there's a lot of really good ones out there as well.
Oh yeah, and don't forget, sometimes the perfect word to summarize suspense in a nutshell: nail biter. Some anime are nail biters, some are even more than nail biters. They're like gut wrenching. But hey, that's just how suspense plays out.
Not wrong there.
True.
Carefully.
Alright, guys. Well, this concludes the episode of Suspense Anime. Don't forget to follow us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio. Come to the Patreon page with the blog MC Anime. Be part of the MC Anime community. You do blog post. You can upvote what you want for the podcast episodes. You can drive what you want, ideas, guest appearances, sponsorships, all of that stuff to help support the podcast and keep us going, keep us afloat, and also give us really honest feedback. That'd be great. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
This concludes another episode of MC Anime Podcast. MC Anime Podcast is available on podcast directories like Google Podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. We also have our website at mcanimepodcast.com. If you want to directly support us, then follow Patreon blog MC Anime. Finally, if you want services for hire, then we're available on Fiverr for audio and video production, graphic design, idea consulting, and blog and article writing.